Great to have you guys with us here today. I want to take a minute and welcome everyone who's here for the first time, or if you are also just coming back maybe for your second or third time, welcome back. My name is Chris. I pastor here at Our City Church. My wife, Brennan, an incredible team, and we're really honored to have you guys here, especially if you just were invited to our new series of talks about how to love our city and what it means for us as a church to love the people around our city and to feel like, hey, we're sent from this place to go out and to make them the emphasis of our heart. Not just that, but we also want to talk about the things that we love about our city church, what makes our city church unique, why we would invite you to even consider making it your home church, the place that you grow and will grow your family and grow your faith. And we're going to talk about some of those things here today as well. I want to take a minute and welcome everyone watching online, watching on our YouTube channel, or listening on our podcast, doing watch parties again. We're just so grateful again for all of you who are tuning in each week, and we count it a huge privilege to be a part of your story, your faith, your journey. And I want to thank all of you that make this happen. Those of you that are on the All-In team, and you are serving, you are giving, you are supporting it. You're making sure that this goes all around the world, and I thank you for that. We couldn't do it without you. Every week we get emails and messages and social media messages from people who are saying, this is changing my life. They don't even live in California, but it's changing their lives. And so those of you that are really helping hold down the fort by serving, by making it happen, the load in, load out team that show up early, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, they've set this whole thing up and they tear this whole thing down. You can't even tell a church was here by Sunday afternoon. And that's incredible. And those of you that give and you sacrifice, all of our hosts, all of you that lead a life group, and you make sure that our church is growing and having a place to be cared for. Thank you for all those things. Without those of you who do this church, we wouldn't be reaching the people we're reaching. And so I just want to say thank you. You guys are incredible. This is a special season for our church. We're in year 2. This is our second year as a church, and we're just really looking forward to what God has for us. And this series of talks is really a foundational one to launch us into all what we believe God has for us. And so if you have a Bible, I want to invite you to open it up to John chapter 6. And that's what we're going to study and look at here today. If you're new, or maybe you wouldn't consider yourself a Bible reader, I'm going to let you know we'll put all of the verses up on the screen for you, and you can read along there. Those of you that do believe, we always encourage you to come and be prepared to study. Get a Bible, something you could circle and underline, take notes in the margin. It really helps foster and develop your faith at a stronger, more robust level. I want to talk today about one of the things that we feel God's called us to live out and to be as people of faith, and even specifically here at Our City Church. And this one's, I just think, so special and important. It's one of our main values. It's, in fact, when you list and you go through our growth track, which is how you become a part of our city church here. In fact, growth track starts today. Our City 101, the first class of it, is today. And so if you're interested in making Our City Church your home church and you just want to find out more about it, it's kind of like a meet and greet. I lead the first one, and we just tell you our story, how we became a church, where we're going, what our vision is, what we believe, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of figure that out. There's no commitment. You don't have to do anything. You just come. It's today at 1 o'clock, so if you want to go grab something to eat, meet us back at 1, and you'd like to say, hey, I love what I'm experiencing, and I want this to be my home church, that's the step that you take next to be able to do that. But the thing you'll learn when you come into that is one of our 4 values, and the first one that we list is the one we're going to talk about today. And before we do, though, I want to help kind of set the tone and just the idea around it. Is I don't know about you, but I know that my life was impacted when I realized how much it cost to go to a fancy restaurant and have dinner, and what it required financially, and then what you got in return. I didn't understand that growing up. I didn't get a chance to spend my own money on those things. But I remember the first time that I went into like a really high-end restaurant, and I thought it was going to be amazing. But it was like not like a high-end restaurant that gives you like the value of your dollar. It's like the high-end restaurant that they have like a chef who thinks so high of his food that he doesn't feel he needs to give you big portions at all. You've been to the place. Okay, like, I don't know. I went to a French restaurant, and I also one time went to this other, it was like a fusion of a few different, like wonderful, and the food all tasted great. But it was just so different because I remember, like, I learned that at a place like this, you don't want to look to the right side of the menu, okay? Stick to the left where they describe the food, because when you look to the right and you realize what they're charging you for the food, you're like, wow. And I'll never forget, it was like this super bougie, expensive place, okay? And I went, and I was all proud to go there, and they were like, and the guy comes out, and they're just like talking to you like in a language so beautiful, but so not what I know how to do well. And I was just like, what you're describing sounds so tasty and amazing. Yes, I will give you $60 for this appetizer. Like, and it's like, wait, what am I doing? What's going on with me? And they bring out, and it's like, they talk about it. It's just like, this will be a tuna tartare with mango sauce, and we will have parsley on the top of it, and then we will reduce a cabernet, and it will come upon with a edible flour, and it will be beautiful. And then it comes out, and it's like, dude, I could fit that thing on a Ritz cracker. Like, what? What is that? That's not an appetizer. It's like a snack for Eliana. Like, that's not gonna do it. And I remember it was just like, I was like, who are your appetizers for? Like, children? Like, I didn't understand that. And then it wasn't like it was cheap. And then they also, like, I didn't know the difference between the type of way you describe steak. And so I had heard of like different steaks or whatever. It was like, today we are featuring a filet medallion, and he starts talking about medallions. I'm like, I don't want no medallion. What's that? Like sliced? Like, I don't want filet medallion. I want filet mignon. Like, I don't know what you guys do with that. And so they bring out like 2 slices of it, and it's just like, it's so much money for like 2 slices. I swear it was just like, dude, I got bologna thicker than this right here. Like, that's what are we doing here? And then they don't even give you full asparagus. It's just asparagus tips. Like, they cut the tops off, and it's like, what'd you do with the rest of it? Like, where's that? It's like, oh, it's the asparagus soup, which is beautiful. And I'm like, I don't want you to call my soup beautiful. I'm not interested in that soup. So maybe you want beautiful soup. I don't. I just want tasty soup. And what was interesting about it for me was, it was like the salad wasn't a salad. It was like 3 spinach leaves. Right? And I was like, dude, and the bill comes, and it's like 3 digits, and I was like, man, I'm like right out of college. Like, that's a lot for me. Like, and I ate it, and I was still hungry, so we went and crushed In-N-Out right afterwards. I wasn't full. I was like, dude, I just spent like $180 on like some like toppings for my Ritz crackers, dude, and some string cheese, and like 3 leaves of spinach, and like a medallion of bologna that they called filet. And I was just like, dude, what am I doing? So we crushed 2 double doubles, man, and we were getting done. We go home, and I remember when I left that place, I thought, dude, it was like so billed to me as like the most incredible experience I'm ever going to have. And I spent all this time earning all this money to spend all this money on something that when it was done, I was so not satisfied, so not fulfilled, so not like, yes, that's what I hoped it would be. And this is what's interesting, is this doesn't just happen on like experiences with, food and restaurants and growing up and learning the value of a dollar and fine dining and what kind of places are your kind of places. This kind of stuff happens in our own souls and our own lives when we hear what people in our life, what our friends we go to school with, or what the so-called like outside of our own life world is saying, here's what will satisfy you, here's what will fulfill you, here's what will make you feel okay. You will feel good about yourself. This is what you need out of life. And we go and we spend lots of time and money and energy trying to chase these things down, thinking if I just had enough, and you fill in the blanks with whatever we all have learned to chase, right? If I just had enough beauty, if I just had enough security, if I just had enough money, if I was just this thin enough, if my body looked like this, if we just had this much set aside for retirement, if this is how much was in savings, if my kids would just, if this was what would happen, if my husband would stop doing, if my wife would figure out how to, and we have all these things, and even sometimes beyond that, it gets into material possessions. We think that if we just get the right outfit with the right shoes, or we end up with the right, and we need more earrings, and we need more things here, and I got to go back here, and I got to get more of this, and we just get into this mindset where we're just chasing this fulfillment, this satisfaction. And what's interesting is no matter how much money we spend, no matter how much effort we put into trying to get that part of our soul fed, we're still hungry afterwards. You're not fulfilled. You're not satisfied. It doesn't matter how beautiful or handsome he is. It won't actually take away the ache, the need in your soul to be fed. What is that? Why is it that we all know that? Why is it we all have a story that if I asked you, tell me a story about a time that you lowered your standard of what you would want to do for your own decision making, and you lowered your standard to experience the so-called idea of fulfillment or satisfaction of your soul, that the day after, the night of, immediately after, a week later, you weren't satisfied. Your soul was still empty. You still felt that ache, that longing, that what happened? I thought that was going to do it. And then you got that paycheck and you made that money, or you had the child that if you just had a kid, you would be okay with yourself. And it's like all of a sudden you have the thing that you thought you were told, you bought and sold the idea, if I just had this, I would wake up and feel better about myself, and you don't. And part of the reason for that is because the things of this life are not going to ever satisfy the real hunger that your soul has, because you were made by a God who loves you and created you for relationship primarily with him and with other people in a healthy dynamic. And if you don't have your primary relationship with God in a healthy space, then you will continually try to leverage and chase the things on this earth, the things of this life, to try to facilitate what you can only ever really get from God. And then you will be disappointed and you will not be satisfied because you're feeding yourself something that can't actually give you the nutrients in your soul. Because your soul requires a different level of nutrients. And if you just give it all this junk food, you're not going to be healthy. You're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to be fulfilled. And here's what's awesome about it is God knew he created it that way. And God knew that we were going to deal with this stuff. And so Jesus comes along and he actually lets the people know in his day and age, hey, here's the challenge. You guys are trying to figure out a way to connect yourself to me in ways that are not the way I want you to do it. You're trying to find ways to compensate and satisfy yourself outside of connection with me. You're trying to see if you can get enough material things, financial things, emotional things, relational things, beautiful things, and if you just get those things, and it's just not going to work. And he gets into this back and forth in his day, actually, with some of these people who are like, wait a minute, no. And they actually start kind of testing and pushing back against Jesus. And he kind of gives them the answer right straight up. And he's just like, here's what it is. And so what I want to do today is I want to walk through this. Now, some of you have read this stuff, and some of you have never read this story before. It's right in the middle of John, and John was one of the eyewitnesses. He followed Jesus around, knew Jesus personally, and he wrote about what he saw Jesus do. And in this story, man, it's really kind of incredible because there are religious, spiritual leaders of their day who are actually listening to Jesus and got their arms folded going everything you're saying is like everything we do, and you're just saying that what we do is not going to satisfy others, and you're dismantling the system of what we're in charge of, and we don't really like you for it. And I know I've experienced that. I know what it's like to challenge spiritual authority and to say, I don't really think the way that's going is actually the right way, and to have it be pushed back, to be like, no, you're taking away the power, the way that we go about doing this, and to have it not go so hot, not so well. And if you've ever experienced that at a job, if you've ever spoke up, if you've ever said something in a relationship, in your own marriage, if you've ever told someone something that you knew was truthful, you weren't ugly about it. You were, if you were ugly about it, then you created a different fight. But if you said it in a way that was respectful and honest, and what you got back was just the force of hell, it seems, of their anger and their retribution of just how dare you? And you were just whoa, I poked the bear, and all I did was just ask a question, or hey, have you noticed this? Or I've been experiencing it this way. And that should have been a healthy discussion that turned into a nightmare. I want you to pay attention to this. And I want you to look into this, and I want you to know, especially as a church community, this is why we say in our church and in our values, and if you go to Our City 101 today, you'll learn, it's why we're all about Jesus. Why we are all about Jesus. There's so many things that we could try to be about, and lots of people want to be, but it's we come down to this because when Jesus said what I'm going to read to you today, I hope you'll leave today going you know what, I don't know if I want to build a church. I don't know if I'm going to ever even be a follower of Jesus. I hope you leave today and go, but if I was going to be a person of faith or believe in a God, man, it would be someone like what you hear today of how Jesus goes about it. And so with that said, I want to look into this place, and I want you to see kind of what was going on. John chapter 6, verse 25. Everybody say there and then. If you're new around here, every week, our teaching team, me and the other people who preach and teach here at our city, we're going to teach from the perspective we call there and then. And it's just been my way for my whole ministry life of saying, I want you to know what was going on then when the Bible was written. There and then, before we talk about your here and now, because if you don't understand the world of the Bible, you'll never understand the words of the Bible. And I think the Word of God is vital and important. I'm a Bible guy. I'm a Jesus guy. I wasn't always. But I am now, and I believe that Jesus will change your life, and I believe that he's given us his blueprint for living and everything we need in God's word. But you have to understand it. Like, it doesn't matter if you could have the user's manual for your car, but if you don't open it and you don't understand it when you read it, you're not fixing nothing. You're making it worse. Trust me, I've done it. And I want you to know the Bible is not unlike that. If you don't understand it, and if you're just told, well, you just got to go do it. Well, what does it mean? I don't know. And so at our city church, we want to make sure you always get a chance to understand there and then what was happening. And so here's a little bit about what John is talking about. Jesus had just got done miraculously feeding. This is very important. He just got done miraculously feeding 5,000 men and probably another 5,000 to 10,000 women and children. It was a miraculous thing. It was well written, well documented. Now, this created, as you can imagine, a massive buzz. People wanted to get close to Jesus. They wanted to see who this guy was. He's all of a sudden this new rabbi, this new teacher, and in his day, Jewish people were waiting for the Messiah. The Messiah was a 1,000-year-old promise that had been prophesied about by all these different prophets, all these different Bible writers of what we call the Old Testament. They called it their law and their prophets. And of their written scribes and written prophecies and all of the people, the prophets who wrote about it, the Messiah was the one who was going to come and make everything right for Israel again. They were going to raise up like Israel, and they were going to redeem them. They were going to, in their mind, they were going to be a king like King David, because they were going to be one of the descendants of King David, and King David was a warrior king. So their minds were like, dude, we got a warrior king coming with a sword. We're about to take out Caesar, Julius Caesar, and the whole Roman Empire. It's going down. We're going up. Let's get it done. And so then Jesus shows up, and people start talking about, like, I think he's the Messiah. And people are like, wait, you can't be the Messiah. You have no sword. Like, you're washing people's feet. You know, you're riding in on a donkey and not a horse. You don't have a castle. You were born in a manger. You're like the crappiest Messiah we've ever heard of, right? Like, we just couldn't wrap their minds around it. But Jesus is teaching this new way. And so there's this back and forth, like, I don't know. Some of you know what that's like because you're at that place with Jesus today. You're at a place where you're like, man, I've been coming to our city, or I've been listening to the podcast, or I've been watching, or my friends brought me, man, I'm going back and forth, and like everything I hear about Jesus from our city, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Like that makes sense. It's making sense to you, but you're still kind of like, ooh, I don't know the implications of if I turn my life over to following him and he becomes my God. I just want to let you know you're in the right place, and this is not new. People in this story were exactly where some of us are and have found ourselves, and where I used to find myself and had to learn the same things I hope that we're able to teach you today. This is where Jesus was. He had fed all these people. Crowds were coming, and he withdrew to this mountain to go pray after he fed 5,000 people. And this is where the famous story of him walking on water takes place. His disciples got in a boat. They tried to go over to the mountain where he was, and so he walks on the water. And so when the boat comes back, people are like, yo, where's Jesus? Dude, these guys are the only guys in the boat. Jesus isn't even there. And everyone's trying to find Jesus. Everyone's trying to figure it out because they just saw this massive miracle. It's hysteria, dude. It's like, it's breaking news. It's trending on Twitter. It's like everything is like big for this. And this is where we find this story. So I want you to go ahead and track with me now. Verse 25 of chapter 6 in John. This is what it says. It says, when they found him on the other side of the lake, they asked him, Rabbi, when did you get here? And Jesus answered, very truly, I tell you this, you are looking for me not because you saw the signs I performed, he's talking about the feeding of the 5,000, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. So he's basically saying, look, you guys are looking for me, but the reason why is because you got something that satisfied you physically. And you're like, whoa, we have such physical needs. We need more of that. We've got more hungry people. It was a very impoverished area. The Roman government was taxing the Jewish people 80, sometimes 90%. They were taking over their lands, public domain like ours, government property now. Sorry, no money back to you. Thousands of years of ancient family history just taken from this Roman government. These people are oppressed. These people have no economy. They're just like, man. And so Jesus is like handing out fish and bread. People are literally bringing hungry people saying, you are doing something incredible and we have needs. And then he continues on. Then in verse 27, he kind of changes the conversation. He goes, look, do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him God the Father has placed his seal of approval. In essence, he's saying this, look, you came for more bread, but the real bread isn't from me feeding the 5,000. It's not me giving you bread and fish. I know you need that. We're going to make sure, we're doing something. But there's something deeper and bigger that's happening, and I want you to know about that. The crowds were coming for so many reasons, and he wanted to make sure, yes, I want you to get your need met, but I want you to understand that there's something in your soul you need to know too, which is this. You don't just need physical bread. You need something deeper than that. You don't just need stuff on the outside. You don't just need the things that you can get to be like, okay, I'm good. You don't just need to be in a place where like a cool miracle happens. That's what I think you're chasing, but actually what I want you to know is there's something else that I want you to know, and I want you to know that it's the Son of Man whom God the Father has placed his seal of approval on. This idea of this seal of approval is him saying, wink, wink, nod, nod, I'm the Messiah to his audience. I mean, this would be like, if I could, times a million of what I'm about to say, this just pales. But if I could somehow say like, hey, I don't even know if we're going to do an election in 2050, but in 2050, this person in our city church is going to be the president of the United States. And she's going to kick butt and take names, and she's going to be amazing. She's going to raise up, be the president in 2050. We'd all be like, no way! Some of you guys would like, try to like, hey, don't forget me when you come into your kingdom, right? Like, it's like, we would all be about it. Like, this is way times 1,000. Like, for thousands of years, they've been looking for this Messiah. He's from heaven. He's God sent. And now Jesus is like, look, the Father has put a seal of approval on the Son of Man, and this is who I am. So to a people who are like looking to satisfy their soul, looking to satisfy their needs, and he says, yeah, now I want to go deeper, and I want to talk about you chasing after things, because some of you guys are like, you're thinking that if you just get to see a miracle, you're thinking if you just get, to bring your friends and you just experience it, everything will be fine, but there's something else you need more than just the outside. So verse 28, they say, then they asked him, what must we do to do the work God requires? Okay, so watch this. This is now where a lot of you sit in this question. Because as soon as God reveals himself to you, instantly you click into religion mode because it's all you've been raised around. Some of you grew up Catholic, some of you grew up Seventh-day Adventist, some of you grew up Presbyterian, Methodist, Pentecostal, Christian, some like whatever. We grew up in church. But a part of the brand of Christianity that has existed for the last many, many years, my whole lifetime, has in some ways taught that you must get yourself to be approved of by God by what you do. Not who he is, and not you putting your faith and trust in him, but what you actually do and don't do is what God will then accept or reject you, which is not the gospel. The gospel is not based on what you do. It's not based on how good you are at following the rules. It's based on, do you put your trust in Jesus to forgive you, to have grace for you, to have unconditional love for you, to be there for you when you fail? Do you desire to not fail as much because you so appreciate what it required of him? He was murdered and killed and brutalized. Does that move the needle in your heart? Do you have something that says, wow, I was loved that much by God himself? See, that's the trust and the belief he's asking for and he's referring to. And this is where we get it wrong, because this is what they do. They go, hey, so if you're telling me that there's like some other bread other than the physical one, and it's going to be even more like amazing for us, and it's going to satisfy us, what do we got to do to get this bread? How do we get it? How do I make God approve of me? Ready? What do I have to do? What is God requiring of me? And this is a list. They're wanting, please give me the list. Do I got to wake up? How many services do I got to go to? Do I have to, what's the list? What's the stuff I've got to do? And if I do these things, then I can put my hand out and go, okay, God, let's go. Hey, how come the blessings aren't falling as hard as I feel like I'm sacrificing? I start tithing and nothing happens in my family. I thought if I tithe and I obeyed God, God would just start dumping money out of heaven. I'd start catching dollar bills like it's the price of right. Like, what's going on? Whoa. I thought that if I taught my kids and I was in church, none of my teenage kids would ever make stupid mistakes that would embarrass me or make me feel like awkward when I went to the next soccer game. No, that didn't happen. So wait, I thought if I did these things, and we start trying to figure out how can I do something that gets God to do the things I want God to do. And that's not relationship. And we impose this religious idea on God without us knowing it. See, some of you are so much more religious than you know you are. You are not as relational with Jesus as you are religious towards your faith in Jesus. And he wants to strip that off of you. He wants to pull those weeds out, break those chains down, because it leads to nothing except death of your soul. The death of life, the death of joy, the death of peace, the death of hope. You can't have hope, you can't have peace, you can't have joy in a heart that thinks it can earn God's approval. It can't. That is a dead end to nowhere, driving the train fast, and you will go into a brick wall, and it's over. And so he is now going to say, you want to know what you got to do? I got it. And now watch, he drops it on him. Verse 29, Jesus answered their question and said this, the work of God is this, to believe in the one he sent. Well, no, okay. For God so loved the world, whoever believes. Okay, Jesus, I got it. John said that 3 chapters ago. I got a question. Like, that can't be it. I got to be able to earn this. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? And then he's just like, you have to believe in the one he sent. Okay, now we have to take this word belief and break it down. What does this even mean? What does it mean? Well, underneath this word believe in this language was a different word. It didn't just mean a set of beliefs to adhere to believe in, to say, I believe this is true. I believe the sky is blue. I believe, it's like, no. It means you will reorient your life around what you say you believe. And that's different, right? In our day and age now, I could believe this and do this, and it's all fine. But he says, yeah. I know you believe it. My question to you, this is the work. You want to know what's hard to do, what the work is? I want you to learn how to reorient your life around your belief. What does it look like for you to put your trust and belief in Jesus? Well, it's different for you than it is for me. It's different. It's going to be different. My challenges, my trials, my frustrations, the things that cause me doubt, the things that make me question, like, God, what in the world? They're different than yours. The things that give me joy, the things that make me happy, the things that make me go, oh, I so appreciate you, they're different than yours. But ultimately, what we have to answer is, God, how can I better reorient my life around what I believe about you? What would I act like if I really believed about you, like that you are the one that was sent for me? What does that look like? And so it's not a list. It's not like, this is what you must do. No. It's, this is what you must do, and then be honest with yourself and be honest with your God and let God be honest with you. And begin to work through the relationship. Begin to let him speak and nudge you in ways. And this is where it gets interesting, because now the people, they counter back with him. And these are religious people. And I told you, these were people that were like, look, we're the Jewish people. We come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses led us out of Egypt. And then we were taken care of back in the day. And so this is a people who looked to their heritage and said, our heritage and the things they gave us to do. And Moses gave them the Mosaic law. There was 613 to be precise, different laws they had to follow. And these were the things that if they did, God in the Old Testament said, you will be righteous by what you do. But now Jesus comes and says, I will fulfill all 613, and you will not be righteous by what you do. You will be righteous by who you believe in, which will be me. That no longer is it you making yourself right with God, but it's me making you right with God and you putting your trust in me and my work on the cross and my resurrection to conquer the need for you to follow the 613 to a T, or else God puts you outside the temple. Whoa, this was massive. This is a huge shift. Now, they're kind of like pushing back against it though. No, because we're good at doing the 613. Because this is how it's supposed to go. This is who is out. This is who is in. This is who I can look down on. This is who I could judge. This is who I could not like. This is the way I get to be in charge of who's in and who's out. When I got the rule book and I'm in control of the list, well, I do this list really good. Those people don't, so they're out and they don't get to come in. And Jesus comes and says, yeah, not anymore. No. Do you put your faith and trust for all of your sins and brokenness into me? And are you doing your best to follow me? then come along for the journey, y'all, because we all fall short of the glory of God, and nobody gets there on their own righteousness anymore. And that's really hard for some of us because we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to just be accepted by God. I have to prove it and earn it. Good luck. Good luck. You won't do it. You can't do it. And some of us want to go prove that we can earn it, so we keep the right to judge other people who we don't like and we don't want to earn it. Some of you work so hard to prove it, to earn God's approval, but secretly underneath it, you're doing it just to keep the gavel in your hand, to properly judge those that aren't doing it. And it's all a sick system of religion, void of true relationship. And Jesus said, you want to know what the work is? Here's the work. Believe in me. Put it into me and have relationship with me. And then believe that everyone else gets the same chance you get. Because it's always my sin that is a little cute, and it's everyone else's sin that is really bad. Right? Like my sin made the cross heavy to carry. It's your sin that put the nails in his hands. Right? My sin made everyone shout, crucify. I mean, that's not fun, but it's not like it was like, Yours, though, crown of thorns. Beard ripped out. That's you, okay? Just so we're all real clear on who's who and what's what here. My sins, it's God's grace. God has grace for us, mercy for me. But you, well, that's what happens when you don't do what God says. That is a sick religion void of Jesus. And some of us are still calling that our brand of Christianity. And Jesus says, no, that's not believing in me. That's you still trying to work your list and your system and then attaching Jesus into that broken system and seeing how you can work it to earn your approval and keep others out who aren't doing what you think should be done. It's difficult when Jesus says he'll accept anybody who puts their faith and trust in him. It's hard because you got to be around people that rub you the wrong way. You got to be in the room with people who don't even see you sometimes. Or the way they see you, is just broken. You've got to be in a faith like that. But nevertheless, Jesus calls us to that. And then they ask him this. If that wasn't bad enough, they ask him, okay, well, what sign will you give us that we may see it and believe in you? What will you do? Isn't that funny? Guys, can I just talk to the guys? I'm going to talk to all dads, all husbands for a second. If you've ever come home, busted your tail, given your family all you could to have a great house, people are driving cars, eating good food, the fridge is full, bills are paid, you're kicking and taking, and it's on, and you're great, and you're doing it, and yet somehow, some way, someone in your family has the opportunity to complain about what you're not doing enough of. If you've ever felt like that before, probably not any of you, and if you at least know it now, that's enough. Don't respond because she's watching you. Just keep staring at me right now. Don't look to the left or to the right. Just stay here. But if you've ever once had that feeling of, it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter what I give, you still can be unhappy. How are you unhappy right now? I just want to let you know that John chapter 6 is waiting for you. John chapter 6, verse 30, specifically speaking. What sign will you give that we may see it and believe you? What will you do? It's like, what will I do? I just fed 15,000 people with 2 fish and a couple loaves of bread. How is that not awesome yet? When am I awesome enough? Have you ever felt like that? Moms, you ever felt like that? It's like, dude, my kids do not get how dope I am. I am away, you got it so good. You ever want to tell your kids that? You don't know how good you have it. Ooh, right? Let God just heal some of your hearts right now. Just let that settle in. Here, I want you to know, listen, this is what I love about the Bible. Written thousands of years ago, but it still speaks right to what we're going through today. Jesus knew what it felt like to give the most and to give the best and to still have people asking him, well, can you give us more? Show us another sign. And then they totally disrespect him, right? Then they clown his whole deal, and they follow it up with it. It's like, look, not only, do I want, listen, watch. It's like, you need to show us a sign. You already showed us a sign on the outside. You fed all these people. You gave everyone all these like things that like they could have that they saw. It was physical. But it's kind of like, prove it. Prove that you're the new way. Prove that you're the Messiah. Prove we don't need to do the list anymore. Prove that we need to put our trust just in you. Prove it. You prove it. Like, show me something else. Whatever, that's fine. But no. I want you to prove it to me. And this is funny because he had just done, again, the most amazing thing. But our way of believing comes from this other miracle. Jesus, here's that other miracle. Our ancestors, verse 31, they ate manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. And this is who they're talking about. They're talking about Moses. So they go like this. Okay, so you're like the Messiah. Okay, prove it. Oh, and by the way, while you're going to prove it, we just want to let you know that our way of believing in like what we do, it came from the dude named Moses who gave us the Mosaic Law. And Moses, he was grabbing like that multiplying fish and bread, cute, but who was raining bread from heaven? Moses was just taking it out the sky and handing it out. Okay, manna came, and he's just like, here, and let me pull it down, here, what? Every time I put my hand out, bam, loaves of bread just pop into my hands. Do you hear this? Listen, do you hear someone's defensive nature that when they are presented with a truth that they need to change their behavior or their perspective, instantly they start going back to something that happened in the past to try to get out of the current discussion? You know anyone like that? You know anyone that the moment that you bring up something to them, hey, I just wanted to share this with you. This is something that I did. Instantly, it's met with defensive posture. Well, yeah, and here's all the reasons why, and maybe you don't see this, and this is what I was really trying to do, and, I don't really appreciate you trying to say that I'm doing this, and, by the way, and this is what it came from, and Moses, anyways, like, well, I don't even know why you're trying to act the way you're doing is so great, because Moses, he's pulling bread out of the sky. Super quiet in here right now. And in this defensive, sidestep the argument, I don't want to change my behavior, I don't really like that you're presenting these facts to us, and it's going to make me have to adjust my way of thinking, my way of living, my way of treating this entire discussion, Jesus answers them about who Moses was, that Moses got it. And I love it because it's such just like hey, let me just give you this little morsel of truth. And Jesus answered and said to them, very truly I tell you, it is not Moses who has given you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. Basically saying, hey, that bread that you were saying Moses was handing out, that was my Father. He was the one giving Moses the bread. Oh, and he's giving you the true bread now, and it's me. And then he does it, just in case you think it's too, allegorical. It's like, this is really metaphorical. It's just kind of like, he gets real quick down to it. Verse 33, for the bread of God is the bread that comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. He's using this metaphor that they know about, bread from heaven. They built their entire belief system on the Mosaic Law, and now he's saying, hey, Moses got this bread from heaven, but the Father gave him that bread, and now you're not getting bread from heaven, you're getting the bread of life from heaven. You're getting me. And guess what? You think you need bread and fish? You think you need all these things to satisfy you? You think that if you just got more possessions and more status and more beauty and more attraction and more amazing things on the outside that your soul will be satisfied? I'm telling you, the only way your soul will get satisfied is not if you keep feeding it things that will spoil and rot, things that can't be refrigerated, things that are just not going to do it. No. You could go get all that and you won't get it. I'm telling you that the Father has what you need in your soul, and it is the bread, not of this earth, not of the things, not more cheddar, not more bread, not more money, not more paycheck, not more retirement, not more things, not a nicer car, not nicer clothes. If I just had that watch, if I just had these things, then I would be satisfied. More attraction, more this. If I had another kid. We have all these things that we've been told in our world and in our life that if I got more of this, I would be okay. And it's a lie. It's a trick. It's a worm on a lure, pulling you in, luring you to, being caught up by an enemy that hates you, wants to deceive you, you, trap you, put you on a hamster wheel for your whole life chasing something you'll never get, because all the while he knows the thing you're looking for. Jesus tells us here in no uncertain terms, I am the bread of life. If you want something that won't spoil or rot or go away, you need to ingest me relationally into your soul, and then, and only then you'll be satisfied. I'm what makes you right with God. I'm what your soul needs. Jesus says to survive, I'm what you need. I'm what you need. You can get everything else, but if you don't have me, you got nothing. You can have everything else, but if you don't have me, if me and you aren't connected, if we're not in relationship, if you've not put your trust in the one who the Father sent, the bread of life for your soul, you'll be empty. You'll wake up tomorrow and you'll have everything and have nothing. So, of course, what would they say? The same thing some of you are feeling right now. Sir, can you give us this bread? How do we get this bread? I want this bread. And then just so we make sure we underline, bold, and italicize this thing, Jesus says in verse 35, I am the bread. I am the bread. I'm the bread of everything you're spending your whole life trying to go get. I am the bread. It's me. It's always been me. It will always be me. You were made for me, and you need me. I am what will sustain you. I am what will strengthen you. I am what will nourish you. You will be incomplete your whole life until you reconcile who the Father has sent for you. I am the bread of life. And then he makes a promise. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. And whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Never be thirsty. Never be hungry. In your soul, in your heart, in your mind. When you find yourself thirsty, when you find yourself hungry in your soul and in your mind, and you begin to long for things that you think will satisfy it, the only thing that will do it is if you realize and put your faith in action and say, I am pursuing and chasing things, thinking these things are going to do, and they're not. It is really Jesus, it's you, my connection to you, my awareness of you, my talking to you, my letting you talk to me doing behaviors that show that you're my God. That's me taking ownership of my behavior when it hurts others. It's me sacrificing and serving other people who can never give it back to me. It's me being obedient to the things you've called me to be. It's me coming alongside and modeling for my family what it looks like to be a member and a part of a healthy, thriving community. It's making sure my kids grow up knowing dad doesn't play around with Sundays. He's at church, in church. Mom doesn't play around. They're there. Why? Because they know it's what God's called them to and they do what God's called them to. It's putting a premium on the things that Jesus says, if you'll be in relationship with me and the things that you're in relation with me cause you to live this out, I'm telling you right now, that's when you will experience the life you are pursuing. But when you find yourself chasing these things, it is a promise to be empty. And Jesus wants us all to experience this. And that's why at our city church, we put such a premium on being all about Jesus, is because he's made it so clear to us, man, if you make this church about anything else primarily, you will be empty. As a church, you'll be empty as a people. So we can't make much of anything else before we make much of Jesus. So at our city church, we're going to make much of Jesus. We're going to do it during our worship. We're going to dedicate our kids. We're going to make sure that we honor him. We're going to put him on display through our preaching and our teaching. Our life groups are going to discuss how do we bring in the ways and the teachings and the life of Jesus more into our lives. We're going to do that because I believe firmly that Jesus is what he said he is. I'm the bread of life. I'm what you need. I'm what you want. I'm everything that will do it for you in this life and the next. Not just this life, but the afterlife. Because I believe what we do in this life has consequences in the next life. And the Bible teaches that. And Jesus makes it pretty plain too. Later on in verse 40, a couple verses down, he says this, for my Father's will is that everyone who looks to the Son and believes in him shall have eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. That's his promise to you. His promise to you is that if you have me as your bread, you will not be hungry on this earth. You will not be thirsty on this earth. You won't feel that compulsion to have something else. And when you do feel that, I will provide a way out if you'll come to me with it. And it's not just to me in prayer. It's to me and everything I have sanctioned as a part of me. So what's that mean? It means that if you are an alcoholic and you struggle at certain times to relapse, that you have community and someone you can call and say, I'm having a moment and I need you to be there for me. It means you walk your steps and you work your recovery. It means that when you have an outburst of anger and your family all feels it and they all know it and it's the awkward silence in the house, that you can call a friend and say, dude, I need you to pray with me. I lost my crap and my family's feeling it and I need the words to say and I don't even know how to say this apology because no one ever apologized to me in my house. We just ran for cover and stayed away and I don't want my kids to learn that from me even though I learned it from their grandpa. So you learn. That is sanctioned Jesus. So it's not just, I want to make sure you have an understanding of when I say Jesus is the bread of life, I'm not just talking about you got to go pray to Jesus, although that's the first thing I would recommend. Worshiping him, involving the songs about him into your rhythm of your daily living, reading the sacred texts about Jesus. If you don't know the whole Bible, don't. Read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Repeat. Start there. You'll be fine because you'll learn about his ways, his practices, the rhythms of how he lived his life, how he treated people, how he responded when he was falsely accused, wrongly attacked. All the stuff you need in life, you read in the stories about Jesus. But I want you to know that it's not just that. It's the things he sanctions as a part of the working out and living out of belief in him. So it's not just prayer and worship and reading the Bible, though that's a pivotal part, but it's community. It's godly community. It's people you can call. It's people you can text. It's people you can say, dude, I don't know what to do, man. I'm in an argument right now, and I'm tripping right now. Dude, I don't know what to do. The money is gone, and we thought it would be, or we're being sued, and I don't know. This morning, I met with someone who's got a medical prognosis in our church. You know them all real well, and it isn't good. And I couldn't look across the table and say, dude, I promise outside of a miracle you're going to be, I don't know that. But I promise you this, we will walk through it with you together. And if this don't turn out better than it looks now, dude, your family will be taken care of and we will love them and be there with your kids. And they will grow up and we'll be out there high school graduations and we'll do it. I mean, that's a real hard Sunday morning. But guess what? That's us together, him and I, having the bread of life be our soul's food. It's coming together in the sanctioned work of what God says. This is how you can know me. This is how you can feast on the things that are me. This is how you do this. And this is what we need. And that's what I want you to remember. Is if I had to say it in a phrase, and I like to try to, if you're new around here, every week I'll try to find a way to say it that is very succinct and it's portable, meaning you can take it anywhere you go. I want it, sometimes it's going to rhyme, sometimes you can memorize it, but I want you to. And so this is what I want you to just get in your mind and say this phrase a few times this week. And if you want to take a picture of the screen, do that too. But basically what I think Jesus is teaching us today at our city is everything he is everything we need. Everything he is everything we need. And what is he? Man, he is prayer. He is worship. He is accountability. He is my life group. He is the fellas that I can talk to in my life about anything and they can talk to me. He is the ladies you can talk to about all the stuff that you go through as a woman and they can talk to you. He is joy. He is birthday parties. He is the things that make me. He is the gym. He is eating right. He is all of those things. Those are all sanctioned outworkings of the bread of life. And when we put our trust in him, everything you're looking for, all that you think you'll find on the outside, all that you'll go chase down, he says, hey, this is what'll do it. Put your faith and trust in me, and then come to me and the things I have sanctioned as the outworking of who I am, the body of Christ, the church, the community, worship, prayer, all of these things, accountability with someone who can be honest with you. This is what we're all about at our city. And it's why we lift Jesus high. It's why we sing about him mightily. And it's why we try to take time to explain him so well. We say that around here. We lift Jesus high. We explain him well. Why? Because I never want to lift Jesus so high that the group of people learning about him are like, I don't understand what you're doing here. We want to explain it. Why? Because when you understand it, you could come along for the ride of what it means to lift him so high, because you understand why he should be lifted high with your heart, with your adoration, with your song, with your worship of your life, and with your voice. And I believe that if we this next year will be that church, God will trust us with even more people and more lives and more families and more kids. And we will dedicate more children. We will baptize more people. We will have more young people. We had 73 teenagers at our first youth rally ever last week. 73 teenagers. I have built 2 youth ministries up to 3 to 600, 2 different times. Okay, so youth ministry was my strength. It's what I did. It's why I'm here today, to be honest, is God showed me and taught me, gave me mentors, and I learned how to build great youth ministries. And we had great teams and all the rest. I'm going to tell you right now, I have never seen anything like what I saw last Sunday night, ever. I'm telling you, it is a sovereign move of God that he is doing at our city church. And what I saw last week in our teenagers, and I don't think we have us senior almost in the room, meaning we got all underclassmen. That means we got this thing for the next couple years to impact all of our schools, our middle schools, and our high schools, and these kids are about it. I never inherited a group of kids that passionate. Never. They were always brats. It took me like 9 months to deconstruct the dysfunctional ways these kids that they didn't talk to any of the new kids who came in. They didn't cheer on anyone who tried anything, that like courageously put themselves out there. These students last week, they were cheering on anyone. A guest, hey, it's great to meet you. I'm like, what? That's like 2-year behavior. You guys are doing it at our first youth rally. I want you to know, you guys hold on tight. You guys get in around here. And if you got young people, you know young people. I'm telling you right now, you want to be at this church, because I promise you this. I've never seen anything like it. And I've seen youth ministries explode and take over a city. I've never been a part of what is about to happen with our city kids and our city youth. And I believe firmly that if we'll do the things God's calling us to do as a church, he will send us the masses, both in this city, Orange County, the other places in the inner cities of Southern California that God's going to place our city campuses. We're going to see God do stuff in the next 12 to 18 months that's going to blow your minds. I promise you that. So what do you got to do? How can you take this home? What can you do? Yeah, amen. How can you make this? How can you take this home? There's a few things. I think I listed all the ways that you can make Jesus and the sanctioned areas of Jesus a part of your life. I want to encourage you to do that. If you're new around here, today we have Our City 101. I want to invite you to that. I'm leading it. I'm teaching it. I want to get to know you. It's kind of a meet and greet, and we tell you the story of our city church. And I want to encourage you to come back at 1 o'clock and begin the steps of saying, okay, I need to get around the sanctioned things of Jesus. I need the bread of life. I need his church, his body. I want to be a part of what he is, and I want to invite him to be a bigger part of my life. And if you're like, I don't know what I believe about Jesus yet, 101's perfect. You don't need to be a big believer. You just have to be somebody who's spiritually super interested in what Jesus is doing in this space. And we invite you to come to that and ask your questions. And again, this is not a requirement to be a person of faith. That's part of what this is for you to learn along and for you to have access to people who can answer your questions. Some of you are one question away from total belief in Jesus. But the church has always told you, you better not question God. And so you're like, well, I guess I won't believe in him then, you know? And we're not like that. We're like, hey, actually question God and question us. Why? Because we believe in the truth. And I think Jesus is the truth, so I'm not insecure about that fact, so I have no problem with your questions. Why? Because I got the truth on my side. All it is finding out what your question is, I can get it to you, and then, boom, you're like, cool, thank you for taking the time. I've had that for 15, 20 years, and now I feel set free to open my heart to Jesus. And so 101 is where you can begin that journey. I want to invite you to do that today at 1 o'clock. But not just that. Love Our City is about the campaign we're doing next Saturday. If you haven't signed up, I think they referenced it earlier in service. We've got all of the areas covered in terms of people except the park. We need all of you to sign up at the Love Our City booth. You'll get a Love Our City shirt. Wear that shirt next Saturday at all the places we go to. But we need to clean up that park so that the city can reopen it. It's going to be a big part of us loving our city, making sure our city knows that our city church is here for them. We do have areas, again, that you can fund. And so if you have the desire and the ability to fund some of the other places, which is a special needs home, it's a home for people who have aged out of foster care. There's a home for them. We have things that we need for that, as well as the domestic violence shelter. So those are 3 of the major homes that we still need just things to buy. And so the easiest way for you to do that is you could see me or one of our pastors afterwards, or you could go on the Our City Church app and you could go to the giving part, and it's going to have a drop down that says Love Our City. And you could give any amount into that. It goes into a pot, and 100% of what you give to the Love Our City campaign is going to go to making sure those 3 different homes get what they need. And they have unique different needs, but that's the way that we can do that, and I invite you to be a part of that. Let me pray for you. God, thank you so much for your word. Jesus, man, thank you so much that you're the bread of life, that I don't have to chase anything else. Some of us are exhausted from the chase. We're so tired. We're tired of the things we've tried to find satisfaction in, and it hasn't worked. Help us to come back to you again in a new way. Help us to reclaim the power of your love and the closeness of your heart. Help us, God, to experience your presence and your voice this week like we've never heard or experienced you before. Help us to, when we read the Bible, for things to jump off the page and to know, God, you're literally right now speaking to me. I pray, God, that as we move in the spaces of worship and begin to lift up our voice and our heart to you, that we would experience the greatness of your presence. I pray as we are in community and we're serving in our serve teams and we begin to get connected here, God, may we experience the flow of what you've sanctioned relationally to help us be all that you say we can be with you as the bread of our life. God, I ask that you would then also lastly use us. Use us Saturday. What a special day. It's the first ever Love Our City Serve Day. Help our city, God, to hear about you by watching us serve them, God. Without our hands open for some kickback, with just the desire to say, here, you are loved and you matter to God and you matter at our city church, Lord. May we see people give their life to you. May we see brand new guests and visitors next Sunday. May next Sunday be one of the best days of the whole church's existence as people from the community are like, whoa, I want to come see a church that just loves their city. Lord, may we be able to see next Sunday a special amount of people come because of what we do on Saturday. I ask these things in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen.